that it should illuminate, and then there's a power switch here that you need to press also in the front. The number there is the temperature, and when it gets up to close to 300 degrees, your green light will come on. That means it's ready, and it'll switch over to a footage counter at that point.
Oh.
And that is resettable by holding the button below it.
Okay. So that's how we know. Like, do you have a recommendation as to what point on that footage counter we should go ahead and look at replacing the film, or do we wait until the film completely runs out? What's the best scenario?
The film should have an end of a roll warning coming up.
Okay.
When you see that, you should stop. You don't want to run the film completely out.
Okay.
It'll tear off the cardboard. It's hard on the machine. It could blow something.
Okay.
Plus, I've had customers get like cardboard or that brown paper on the rollers if it runs out completely.
Okay.
I need to log on for the day here. Just a minute.
Yep, sure. So apparently what I learned is that these rolls come in boxes of 2
Correct.
whenever we need to order them. And DJ is the person who does the ordering for this.
Just wait for it to warm up here. Some of the things that I can go over while that's warming up is the rolls always should have a slight amount of drag on it, and that feels appropriate on the top, and it should feel the same on the bottom. If you would have an excessive amount of drag on one versus the other, it's going to curl in that direction. Say you had too much tension on the top versus the bottom, it's going to curl up when your items are on. It's not going to lay flat. Plus, with that excess curl, it could catch on like your cutter, or if it's excess down, it could catch on the trough where the cutter goes across.
Okay.
I always recommend maybe running a little bit out after and put maybe some clips on there for some weight to prevent it from catching on anything. Always make sure your cutter's out of the way. The other things that I can go over while it's heating up and stuff is if you would, for some reason, get wrapped around, you could cut your film top and bottom, put both onto your feed table, and then that's when you would use reverse. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to use reverse unless you're hand guiding it out after cutting the film, because the film will wrap around because it does not take the film back up. If you run in reverse, these are not motor driven to pull the film back up.
Okay.
Plus, if you've got something already in there that's crooked, as soon as it comes out from the heat, it's going to be bonded to that paper, and you're just going to tear the paper. So you really can't remove it once you have started it.
Now, when loading the paper, does it always, I mean, we've been told that it has a tag on here that needs to be 300 degrees before use. Now, is that based upon the type of laminate that we're using, or?
Yes. The standard film is the Naplam 1, which is the 300 film.
Okay.
If you would buy the low melt film, you would switch it to this setting. It doesn't do that automatically. You would have to manually switch it over as it's heating up.
Okay.
But I wouldn't recommend it. Most people just use the Naplam 1 on this machine, and it works well.
Okay. Now, is it unusual? I know it says all over the place that's easy load, and we have had like no problems with this machine with the exception of the loading. So is this something that a lot of people have problems with?
Yes.
Or, okay.
You have to become familiar with your threading of your film.
Okay.
It's always good to get somebody that knows how to do it to show you the tricks of it.
Okay.
It's hard to learn it from the book or a training video.
Okay.
The easy load, the difference between a machine that doesn't have easy load is one of the most common mistakes that cause damage is putting the film on backwards. This machine prevents you from doing that.
Okay.
Basically, you got color-coded ends here. Plus, they're actually different sizes, so you can't actually fit it in and lock it in incorrectly. So your color, you just match up where you put that in. So your light color would go in there, and then you would lock these in.
So there's almost like that color coding tab is on each side, inside. And is that also the case for the bottom one as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And they are going the opposite direction. They both feed towards the machinery. So your light color is going to be on the opposite side. Unlock your feed table, do both latches. That will power down the machine because this side has a latch there that goes in as a trip. So if you remove this one, your light color is going to be over here. And that will make sure that your sticky side is facing out and not against the heat, which would glue against the heat shrink of the rollers. And removing something that's glued against without reheating it to loosen the bond could tear rubber out of the rollers. It's not as easy on this machine as it is on other machines that tear the rubber out, but still, if you would, for some reason, run completely out, one will run out before the other. And since the glue is not meshing with another sheet, it's going to stick a little bit to the opposite roller. So you should be able to get it out without too much trouble on this machine. But if for some reason it's sealed around, you're going to need to reheat that before you would try to reverse it out. And always reverse things out and don't try to cut. You never want to slice your rollers. One way to see if you're wrapping around back here, you'll notice it going around these rollers, and you can, like I said, remove your film by I usually like to do a little bit of extra plastic here so I can take it up onto the feed table. Basically what I'll do is put this up temporary like that. Just stick this in back now. And then you'll need to put your feed table back in for the power up to run in reverse. Always angle it like that, drop it down, and these should latch in, indicating that it has received the power. It'll temporarily beep and blink, then you need to press that for it to heat up. So you put your one sheet down, cut your other top sheet, and put that on top of the other. And then you'll be able to run that out in reverse to remove your film. Say you're wrapped around the back. If it doesn't want to come out, it may be actually wrapped around in here and sealed, especially if you only have one film. You may need to warm it up a little bit, then reverse it out, You can look to see if you're wrapped around in there. The top, you would loosen this screw, lift it up, and you can see your rollers. It will not power up with this up. The bottom one, to check in there, unlock the feed table, and loosen these up. I wouldn't do this when it's fully hot because these get quite warm. And the heat shoes you don't want to touch because they're like a hot frying pan. So you can drop that down. The other day I had a customer that I went in and had the film wrapped around that bottom roller because they didn't feed it right and it just fed around. So that does occur. And again, you could put your feed table on and reverse that out. You can run it with this down, so you want to make sure that you don't forget it when you go to rethread that it is in the up position again. And you just screw these in to keep it in position. Just back on, lock your feed table in, and then it'll power up. You can remove this film then if you have a wraparound. Otherwise, you could leave this on, and with it warm, it'll actually stick fast if you wanted to tack it fast that way. And I'll show you after I show you the method to use the threading cord from scratch when you don't have any film in there threaded already. You need to use a threading cord. So I'll remove this by using reverse and guiding it out. Whoops, I actually don't have my glasses on, so I accidentally pushed the run, but I'll push the reverse now and reverse it out. Usually you want to trim that as close as you can without going through your project so that you don't have as far to reverse things back through. Sometimes if the project actually wrapped around those rollers, I can get it out. It might be a little bit curly until you re-laminate it. You can trim things out and put it through a second time if necessary. So that's totally removed. Now to rethread, move your unlatch, put your rolls on the way it was color coded like I showed you earlier. Take this one, pull some out, and drape it over the top shoe. You want to make sure that it has some excess here that it just doesn't, when you put that on, it's going to push that film all the way in the back there. It could just drop for you if the machine is cold, completely cold. The top one, you want to go underneath the bar like the arrows are showing. And if it's not threaded again, you need to drape it down past both shoes so that when you put your threading cord in, it has some film to wrap around to carry through to the back rollers. So then again, make sure you have enough excess that when you push this in, you don't accidentally pull the film down and it'll drop. And then you only have one film. Since it's warmed up a little, it's already sticking together, so it's less likely to drop. But if it's totally cold, you could just pull that film out and drop. So you want to make sure that you have both films still up there. You can kind of see that you can see both films before you put your threading card through. Now there's a threading card that comes through in each box. I have a spare one here that's a little bit thicker that you can have, and you can trim this out and reuse this. The thicker ones are a little bit easier to work with. If you have any backs of notepads like this material, you can use them. You don't want to use corrugated cardboard because it'll just crush and get caught in there. When you go to put this in, the rollers are about halfway back from here on the shoe. So if you would push the run at this point, it's not going to take it until it gets into this gap or roller. So what I usually do is slacken up on your film a little bit to make it easier to push that in. Get it into the gap. Now, it would be best if you could watch it back through here where you can see it coming. There's a tendency with the pressure and the heat for the cards to curl up, especially on the thinner cards. And they tend to miss going through the gap of the second rollers is what you need to achieve. With the thicker, it doesn't curl quite as quick, but it can curl if you don't slacken up on your top roll. If you slacken up on your top roll, it'll stay flat against the plate in there. But with the tension, it could curl up if you don't slacken up on that. Put your speed at the slowest. Push to run, which is also the stop, and keep your finger on there so that you can stop it if necessary. If it starts to curl up and not going to go through there. Start it, nudge that in, put your finger back on the stop. Watch it come through. And if it's curling up, you can stop it, reverse it a little bit if you need. Use a roller or something to push it down, that card into the gap. So because I slackened up on this and it's a thick card, it hasn't curled up, but they will curl up on the thinner cards if you don't slacken that up. So then get it through that second set. You want to run it till you can see it's past that heat shoe. Stop it with it halfway through and wait for it to fully heat. With the cold film, there's a tendency to want to wrap very quickly. It's sort of like saran wrap when it's not heated. So you keep the card in until it's warm. And then you can, when you get the green light, it'll be up to the 300 degrees, and then you can run the remainder out. And then you would just run it until it's smooth. It should come out looking clear that you can see through it if you did get both sheets through. If it looks unclear and wrinkly looking, it's probably lost one of the threads. You're going to need to remove your film like I showed earlier and start over. So it's important to make sure both of those threads are still hanging on there and going through with your card. We're just about up to temperature now. You can see it's at 282. Usually when it gets up to like 295, it'll already switch over to green. Somewhere's in there. So wait here a couple minutes. What I'll have you still is so one or two of you want to try changing the film while I'm here.
That'd be great.
That way you remember by doing it.
Okay.
Now your thicker items will separate the rollers because they're spring loaded. So especially on these thick threading cards, you'll get wrinkliness over on the sides. One of the things with threading that will help save some film and get the wrinkles out quicker is if you tug on these corners a little bit. Okay, it's ready. I'll run that out. It takes a little bit for the ends wrinkles to come out still, since it had pulled that thick card through. Didn't have any tension on the ends. Okay, now you can see it's smooth and clear. You can trim that off with your cutter. Make sure your cutter's out of the way, run a little bit out. Stop it. You can put a clip or something on there, binding clip for some weight. Generally, you don't want to be running into the wall if you have something thick that's not going to curl down. You want to move it away from the wall. You may want to turn your laminator off the edge or something, or put it so that it goes out onto the table. But either way, you want to make sure that it's not backing up where it backs up into the machine. Are there any questions before I show you?
Yeah, I'm starting to get it. Yeah.
Let me show you this other method quick. That's the easiest method is if you didn't have a wraparound and you didn't run your film out completely, you can just tack fast to this if it's warm. You can easily do it by same as I did before down here. Cut the film. It's easier to pop it if it's taut. Let's pretend we put a new roll on here. You can take this, stick it fast. You can put it up all the way or just at the bottom. When it's warm, it's going to stick fast. You're not going to burn your fingers if you have a couple layers of film in between you and the heat shoe. The top one, the same thing. Cut that. Put your roll on, color code it, that it locks in. Make sure you go underneath this. You can stick that fast. Now, slacken up a little bit so that you can get your tray on easier. If you don't, you're going to be like pushing against that until you can get to these pins, which makes it a little harder to get onto the pins. Drop it down, lock it in so that you're powering up. Push your power button. Now you're going to wait until it's fully heated again, or at least close to the 300 before you run. That's with this method, since it's sticking fast. You don't need to use a threading cord this way. You don't have to worry about it curling up and missing a second set or anything. It saves a little bit of film.
I really like that. I mean, that seems
That's
like
what most customers do.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
You do need to know the other method in case you'd ever have a wraparound or somebody runs your film out completely.
Cut the bottom. Go under that yellow.
Okay, it's switched over, and you can run it out. Still watch that your film doesn't get caught up on anything and back into the machine. As that splice goes through, it'll look wrinkly, get cloudy temporarily. After the splice, it should be clear and smooth. You can trim that off. Move your cutter out of the way, run a little bit out. Okay, and that shield, usually put the pin in that doesn't spring first, and then you can spring that in the hole. Okay. Does somebody want to put the new rolls on?
I'd like somebody else to try it if they don't mind.
Okay.
You want to try it?
Okay.
You want to do it?
Chair.
Mm-hmm.